The same dangers that Cannonier possesses for Adesanya, though, go the opposite way. And the best example, of course, is Paulo Costa. And the reason why I circle back to this fight is because Cannonier could fall into the same trap. He kind of fell into the same trap against Whittaker. He started biting on Whittaker's movement, and then he walked onto those head kicks, which was really kind of, for me, the most significant strikes of the fight. With Paulo Costa, he couldn't get close to Adesanya. He didn't feel confident to bridge that gap between the two of them because Adesanya did such a good job of filling it with something. Whether it was feints or low kicks or jabs or whatever, there was always something that was ready to fill that space between the two of them, which meant Costa was always kind of hanging on the outside. And you remember that first round yourself. I mean, you've probably watched this fight loads of times as well. Adesanya was smashing that lead leg. Smashing it, but look at the difference in the targeting. He's going for the calf, which, you know, assuming these two guys are both in the same stance, I would imagine they're both going to be attacking the same target. And for as accurate as Adesanya is, I would probably rather take 5 of his kicks than 1 or 2 of Jared Cannonier's, just because I think Cannonier can generate a lot more force. And because he knows that he's got that power, he's going to invest a bit more in those shots. Whereas Adesanya, he's 66% decision fighter. I don't know. I just feel like the trade-off. If I'm Jared Cannonier, I think he feels like a heavyweight. He fights like he's still a heavyweight. He's fighting like he's fighting smaller guys. Even though Adesanya's gonna be taller and longer than him, Jared Cannonier on the inside is gonna look like Mike Tyson against most of the heavyweights that he was fighting. I think he's got that raw strength and power as long as he's got the confidence to back it up. But this Adesanya keeping you on the outside, smashing your legs and stuff. You're not going to get ahead with this guy. And this is where his movement comes into play, because he constantly has to change his angle, because he's, people are always trying to close his distance, close him down. So he always finds himself at this kind of area where he's up against these lines on the octagon. And this is his kind of operating space. He's quite happy to drift around the edge, especially because this is where he prefers to defend his takedowns as well, bear in mind, if you think back to the Marvin Vettori fight. So Adesanya drifting around the edge of the octagon here and picking off means that he needs his legs underneath him, being able to carry him side to side. So if you start dismantling that lead leg, then you can start slowing him down and making him a bit more of a sit-in duck for the big power punches that follow. If you don't have the confidence to bridge this gap, though, Adesanya's going to do the same thing to you on the outside. He's going to dismantle your lead leg, which means that he can always get the angle before you can react and turn to face him. Once the low kicks have started to do damage, Costa went back to his corner. He sat on his stool. He had to think back to the glasses of red wine he drank the night before and thought to himself, I would love another one of those glasses of red wine right now because this leg's really hurting. And then he would have thought to himself, I've got to close distance in this next round. I've got to put it on him in this round. He had his corner team going, you've got to close distance, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, you've got to do something. So he comes out in the next round and now he's trying to close distance. Now he's really trying to be aggressive. But he's now stepping on the lead leg that's mincemeat. So every time he steps forward, he's a little bit sheepish with that. And he's a little bit timid to step his weight onto it. And then when he does, he's fully committed because it's difficult to pull back. And then he's walking onto Adesanya's jab. Bang! Oh, in the nose. Bang! Oh, my. In the nose again. So then he starts to do this. And he starts to reach and lean. And you can't do these things with Adesanya. You've probably seen me break this down before. It's one of my favourite setups, which actually will be featured in the other War Room on O'Malley against Munoz, so make sure you check that one out. But you can see what he's doing here. He's reading him here, throwing that jab out there, stinging him on the nose, keeping that distance between them. Look how long that is. Look how he extends his whole body as well. So not only is he got longer arms and he's taller, but he's also really fully extending his punches, making the most of it. Stings him on the nose, but look how he's reading where the guard is. He's looking around the outside of his guard. So, of course, then what does Adesanya do? He moves around. He picks at him a little bit. He reestablishes that leg attack just to divert him. Look at the leg. I mean, looks rough. And then again, you've got Paulo Costa who's now feeling like he's got a close distance. He gets a little bit reckless. Adesanya drifts from orthodox to southpaw. He's under attack. Orthodox stomps the lead foot. Costa closes distance with a double jab. Adesanya's there. Orthodox switches to southpaw, pulls him a little bit, and then he's going to fire his left hand like it's a straight punch. And look where Paulo Costa's arm is. Oh. Bang. Right on the side of his head. Took the top of it like a boiled egg. Bang! Look at that. Beautiful. Really nice setup. But that's from that read of every time Adesanya extends his hand, Costa's going, huh, reaching for it. Think back to Jared Cannonier against Whittaker. This was a very, very similar setup. Whittaker was stepping and throwing his rear hand and then swinging up the leg behind it and catching him with it. Rocked him a couple of times. He's got to be very careful, which is another reason why I feel like if he decides if he's got the confidence, should I say, if he's because it's difficult, you stand in front of someone that moves like some kind of like snake, some kind of reptile, and you just don't feel like you can get close to him. You feel like that distance between you is so far, and you can kind of get a bit stagnant, and in your brain you're going, I'll go in a second, he's going to come to me in a minute, I'll go then, and you just kind of get lulled into this like Paulo Costa did. And then pressure and a bit of pain, a bit of damage that you've accumulated starts to pile on top, and then you start going forward without the same kind of thought process that you would in the first round if you were clear-minded. This is the danger against Adesanya. We see this a lot. It either becomes a bit of a standoff like it did against Yoel Romero, or people pressure and then end up getting themselves hurt. This was a lovely setup here. Really, really nice. And then you remember the finish. There's the kick. And then you remember the finish. Very, very similar to the Rob Whittaker drift away hook. So again, if he's worked that lead leg, he's gonna be able to read you stepping a lot easier onto that lead leg. Once he reads you stepping heavy onto that lead leg, he knows you're committed. He knows you're going to struggle to get your weight back off that leg because the muscles are straining to fire and the knee's swollen up. So then as you land on that lead leg, then he's starting to sting you with stuff, which means that you've then got to start reacting with your upper body because your lower body's not responding. And then you start getting, people's toes slapped around your face. They're the risks for Jared Cannonier. And I feel like that's a much greater risk if he's trying to play the range game and moving himself in and out.